Allez, ça commence bien.
Masterclass, masterclass, masterclass.
Boum. Hello.
T'étais en charge de quoi, Kevin?
Something big. The big news.
One month ago, we created a webinar that generated more than $100,000 within 1 hour. You ask me, how exactly did we do it? So in this video, I will share with you the step-by-step process of the things that we actually did and applied. None of this would have been possible without my team, Kevin, our writer, and Roxana, our creative social media manager. To give you a bit more context, we decided to launch a course about email outreach, so how to use email and cold email in order to find your next customers. So essentially, Kevin was in charge of the entire funnel, the landing page, and also setting up everything that would appear afterwards. And Roxana was in charge of copywriting, social media, and making sure that the entire team post at the right time, the right content.
1 month before everything, we started to work on our strategy. We use Funalytics and Notion to keep track of our roadmap and every task we needed to do.
To create our social media strategy, we follow the 5 W's. If you're not familiar with this structure, the 5 W's stand for why, who, what, where, and when. You can always ask these 5 basic questions to make sure you create a complete story of a subject. Our why and who was pretty clear. We wanted to get as many people as possible
to purchase our masterclass without having to spend any money on ads. So we had to do something big that would attract a lot of people and create FOMO. This is when we realized that hosting a webinar would be an amazing idea.
2 weeks before the event, we started focusing on the last 3 W's, starting with the content that we shared on social media. For the official announcement of the event, we decided to create a storytelling post focusing on G's experience on cold email, failures, and success at lemlist. Why did we choose to focus on storytelling? It's simple, because people connect easily through stories. We wanted to connect at a personal level with everyone reading the post, because in the end people buy something based on emotion and not logic. But let's take a closer look at the post and see how we created the story. We wanted a catchy intro that sparks interest and pushes people to click on see more. So we gave a little hint of the news. We added a number of years of G's experience in cold email to boost legitimacy, and underlined that this masterclass is the result of years of testing and experimenting. Next, we added a social proof and boosted even more the reader's interest. And here comes the sweet spot, the announcement of a masterclass that was far from being an usual one. We describe it as the best cold email masterclass to create a public impression of the masterclass. It's like a stamp, you know? Since we wanted people to be really curious about the event, we added the word secrets. And who is not curious to find a little secret, right? Next, we added scarcity by mentioning that the number of places are very, very limited, which obviously made people much more interested in attending such high demanding events and created a lot of FOMO. So people interest was their desire as well, so we had to make them act.
Step 1 was to attract a lot of people to an event page where they could register and leave their email.
Instead of simply sharing publicly the registration link, we used the lead magnet technique, which means we asked people to leave a comment if they were interested in receiving the registration link, and they did. And cherry on the top, we concluded with a very powerful hook by mentioning that they could be part of G's private community and get coaching for 6 weeks only if they register for the event. By adding this at the end of the post, we wanted to make sure that there's no reason to not register at the event for everyone seeing the post. And it worked. In the end, 6,000 people saw Guillaume's post and 600 people requested the registration link for the event. On Notion, I created different copies for each one of the team following the same storytelling structure and the same lead magnet technique. Next, I organized the calendar of distribution. That means each one of us knew when to post and what's the message. In total, total, more than 15 people shared a lead magnet post to announce the masterclass, which generated in the end more than 500,000 views and around 2,000 comments. Another important social media channel was our lemlist family group on Facebook. Since we're all as a family, we wanted to have a much more personal approach, so Guillaume recorded a short video in which he announced the launching of this cold email masterclass. In a few hours, the post exploded. More than 1,200 people leave a comment to request the registration link. Right after we announced the event on Facebook, it was time to move on Instagram, where we started to tease a little bit the event days before. Here, the same strategy: create FOMO and get people to ask for the registration link. More than 500 people requested the registration link.
Step 2 was to tease the event to make sure people didn't forget about it.
In total, we sent 5 email reminders at specific times before the webinar.
2 days before, 24 hours before, 1 hour before, 15 minutes before, and when we went live.
So the part where I worked the most was essentially the presentation. I've been doing cold emails for more than 5 years and I've tested tons of different things. I know this market in and out and I know the tactics that actually worked. So after creating the best masterclass ever, I wanted to create a presentation where there are tons of value. The thing that I did that are a bit different is usually webinars are boring, meaning like you have one person presenting and with not a lot of energy, etc. And I wanted people to really feel all the energy that I have and the passion that I have for email outreach, because to me, it allows you to meet with pretty much anyone on the planet, even though you don't know them and they don't know you.
In the next day before the event, we continue to tease on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn about the event by sharing capture of all the number of people registered for the webinar, but also by giving short insights into all the surprises that Guillaume was preparing, especially for the event.
A strategy that I usually do during webinars to make this super interactive is ask simple question. Essentially, I ask people to type in the chat, 1, if they are a founder or an entrepreneur, 2, if they are working in growth and marketing, and 3, if they are working in sales. Not sure if it's the right order, but you get my point. That way you can see from the start the engagement of people, and people are there talking to you exactly. I also really like to know where are people from, because we have customers at Lemlist in more than 90 countries, so really all across the globe. Afterwards, during the webinar, I always ask several questions to people in order to make sure that they are still there with me, that they're still like giving me their attention, and that they are, you know, like following the webinar and enjoying it.
Step 3 was the most important step. Give value and create FOMO during the webinar.
To make this happen, G gave free resources and free tips on cold email outreach. He also announced that the first 50 people to purchase the masterclass would have a one-to-one private coaching session with him.
But the 50 seats for the private coaching session were sold out in no time. People were so pumped about it that G decided to increase that number to 100 people.
That's over 50 hours of free coaching.
So usually whenever you're organizing live events, you should expect a 50% no-show rate. The no-show rate is the amount of people that are not attending your event. Make it something super simple. If there are 100 persons registering to your event, you should expect to have only 50 people attending it. In our case, our attendance rate was actually 60%, meaning that our no-show rate was only 40%, which is usually the high end of such event.
In total, 4,500 people registered for the event and 2,500 people attended it.
Step 4 happened right after the webinar, when we publicly announced the launch of our masterclass and shared the website we created on Webflow.
On step 5, we focused on the people that didn't purchase the masterclass. To increase conversions, we sent daily email sequences for 5 days, which was the period during which the masterclass was available to purchase.
Of course, we had everything organized on Notion, and for each email, apart of mentioning the price, we added a lot of social proof. Screenshots received from people right after the webinar, feedback messages that Guillaume received, but also testimonials from people who started right away to watch the masterclass, which was amazing.
And to maximize scarcity, we increased the price every day by over $100. In 5 days, we were able to generate over $105,000 of revenue without using any ads.
In total, we had like more than 300 people going through the course, which was really huge. And now we have this amazing community where we share tips and tricks, and we really leverage the entire community to build this course and make it the best possible. Even though this webinar was a clear success, we still had a few things that we could have been doing better. For me, we had like 4 or 5 learnings. The first one was technical issue. We didn't spend enough time preparing and choosing the right tool for the webinar. We used Zoom, but in the end, it was not really the adequate solution, and we had quite a lot of bugs during the webinar because of the size. What I would advise if you organize such huge webinar is to go through another tool and live stream it directly to a platform like YouTube or Vimeo or something like this. Second things was
focus on copywriting by creating scarcity and a sense of urgency. Cover all social media channels and make sure you create relevant content for each one of these platforms. For instance, you might not want to publish on Twitter what you are posting on Instagram. So make sure for each channel you craft a specific content.
The third thing was really like taking care of the spammers. So with such a huge event, you always attract a very small percentage of people that are kind of like the haters. Because we didn't have any admins, we couldn't block them, and it created kind of some friction whenever we launched the webinar.
Organize everything in advance and think ahead. For example, have many copies available and think ahead of different scenarios for your email sequences.
And the fifth part is more about the onboarding regarding the course. We were not expecting so many people to purchase it. So essentially, there were a little few things that could have been done better in terms of having a smooth onboarding, meaning like people receiving emails as soon as they purchase, so they know where to join the Slack community, how to access all the courses on Podia, etc., etc. This part was a bit clumsy, and we had a lot of people reaching out to me directly. So those are a few things that we learned and that are like really great learnings for what's coming next. Never forget that no matter what you do, how much you plan for something, whenever it comes to big launches or things that you've never done in the past, you need to be prepared that things go sideways or not actually the way you planned it. And it's okay. What matters is that you learn from your mistakes and that you keep growing as time goes by. And for us, we are really prepared for the new courses that we will launch in the months to come. So it was really exciting. And without Kevin and Roxana, actually, none of this would have been possible. And none of this would have been possible also without the support of our entire team.
And let us know in the comments if you'd like us to share you more behind the scenes of our social media strategies. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. That's it. I'm done.